hate it when you go to sneeze, you make all the commotion of going and then you don't actually sneeze. Good afternoon everybody and happy Thursday. Welcome back to my channel. If you are a new subscriber, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really do hope that you can subscribe to my channel down below. I would really appreciate it and it would definitely help my channel. I am suffering from hay fever today, but in today's video, if you obviously have seen by the title, I will be filming an up-to-date Crohn's disease question and answers video. I haven't done any of these videos in a very long time, and I thought that it was about time that I did create some new videos on Crohn's disease for my channel. If you are a new subscriber, then I do have Crohn's disease. I have had this now for 11 years, and if you would like to watch any of my previous videos where I go into more detail, then I will link them down below. I know that this video is going to be very long and very chatty, so I don't want to go into too much detail. Link my previous videos down below where I do talk about my Crohn's disease and my journey in a lot more detail. I did ask over on my Instagram for questions relating to Crohn's disease to answer in this video. Before we do get into answering the questions, I did want to let you know that I am currently off work for 12 weeks. I thought that this was a good video to talk about this in. But last Thursday I did receive, so a week today, I did receive a letter from my consultant from the hospital to say that I did have to self-isolate for 12 weeks. And they said it was definitely best for me not to go out, even though I don't really know why they have left it until we are nearly in May for them to tell me that I shouldn't be going out. Definitely stay at home and not be going anywhere. So I am currently off work for 12 weeks. Which in a way is a good thing because I can then focus on YouTube, but then it is also a bad thing because 12 weeks at home, I think I will definitely be going out of my mind, but it's just something that we all are going to have to deal with, and yes, I will try and make the most out of a bad situation. Hopefully this video will be interesting for you if you don't have Crohn's disease, or if you do have Crohn's disease, then hopefully this will put your mind at rest or give you some advice or tips on how to manage your condition. So everybody grab snacks, definitely grab a cup of tea and some biscuits because that's what's getting me through quarantine at the moment. Sit back and hopefully you do find this video quite informative and really helpful. I just need to have a blowing my nose break. Definitely tell that throughout this video my nose is going to become very red. I'm going to look like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer at the end of April. So without further ado, let's definitely get straight into this video because it's already 8 minutes long and half of that has been me sneezing and blowing my nose, which is great. Okay, so one of the first questions that I had is Crohn's disease hereditary and how did you find out that you had it? I found out I had Crohn's disease when I was around 10 years old, and they did misdiagnose me with celiac disease at first, which I think is quite common with people that find out that they do have Crohn's disease. I had numerous days off school. I had severe stomach pain to the point where I couldn't walk and had to be carried up the stairs. So constant stomach pain was one of them, as well as diarrhea. It's a bit awkward to talk about, but I never really had solid poos. They were always diarrhea, and I was also going to the toilet a lot. By a lot I mean 10 to 12 times a day, and that wasn't even for a wee, it was for the other one. a poo. And I was also asked if Crohn's disease is hereditary, and my answer to that would be I'm not too sure. But last year we did find out that my sister also has it, so really it does seem like it's hereditary, but we are the only 2 people in our whole entire family on my mum's side and dad's side that have Crohn's disease. Nobody has tested for it, and nobody has really showed symptoms. So we are the only 2 out of the whole family that have been diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is very weird that nobody else has it. So I would say that Crohn's disease is not hereditary, but I'm not too sure regarding that. I then had a question which said, what is the hardest part of living with Crohn's? Are you restricted on what you can do? I think definitely one of the hardest parts about living with Crohn's disease is the constant need for the toilet. Don't get me wrong, I do have my good days and my bad days. On my good days I probably won't even need the toilet, or maybe I'll need to go once or twice. But on my bad days I do tend to go a lot. Before, I have been to the toilet 5 or 6 times in 2 to 3 minutes, and I'm definitely not exaggerating that, and that is definitely a fact. The hardest part for me is living at home with 4 to 5 people and only having 1 toilet. As you can imagine, that could become quite difficult, especially if somebody's in the bath or if they're taking a shower, or for any reason anybody else is in the bathroom when you need the toilet. That can definitely become a problem, and something that I've definitely experienced whilst being in quarantine. That has been a regular reoccurrence and has definitely been quite difficult to manage or handle. But 9 times out of 10 I do normally just kick them out, because if I need to go to the toilet then I need to go. So I can handle it and manage it, but it's still something that's quite difficult with living with a chronic illness. And the second question which I put alongside that was, are you restricted with what you can do? The answer to that would be no, you are not. You can do everything that anybody else would do when you have Crohn's disease, but what I will say is I feel personally restricted when I know that I could be going somewhere that doesn't have a toilet or a facility for me to use. So say if I was going on a very long walk in the nature reserve on a nice day, I would feel inclined not to really go on that walk. 1, because there aren't probably going to be any toilets along a public footpath or anything like that. And 2, if I know that there is not a toilet anywhere where I am going, me psychologically will think, what if I need the toilet where I'm going and there isn't one? Then that for me is a trigger and can cause a flare-up. I actually have quite a good example for you which happened quite recently. So me and Kai were going on a half an hour to an hour walk a day, and like 10 minutes into that walk I really needed to go to the toilet. And I really needed to go, so it wasn't something that I could hold in and say, oh, it'll be fine, I can wait till I get home. I really needed to go. So in the end I ended up walking all the way home quite quickly. It was like a power walk to get to the toilet. So that is one example. 9 times out of 10 it can be really psychological. If you think about something so much, it will happen. And with Crohn's disease, a trigger point is stress and anxiety. So if I'm constantly stressing about going somewhere that doesn't have a toilet, then I will have a flare-up and I will constantly need a toilet. It's like a never-ending cycle that you can't really control, but then if you do try and control it, it can become worse. I did have 2 or 3 questions relating to a specific topic, and that was travel. So somebody did ask me, is travel an issue for you in case of emergencies? And if I'm being honest, I've never had an issue with travel. I find that if you go to an airport, there are toilets for you, and there is more than one located at different parts of the airport. And as well, if you are on an aeroplane, there is also a toilet. So you do always have a facility in case you do need to go to the toilet. Of course, going to the toilet on an aeroplane for a number 2 is definitely not ideal and not something that I'm quite comfortable in doing. But if I do need to do that, then I know that the facility is there for me to do so. So travel really has never been a reoccurring issue for me, and is definitely something that I haven't experienced a problem with. If you do have Crohn's disease though, and you are an anxious flyer, then travel could be a problem for you, because of course the stress and anxiety of travelling will definitely cause a flare-up with Crohn's disease. So that is definitely a factor to consider, but again, not something that I have personally experienced. I also got a question on hair loss, and the question was, have you ever experienced hair loss? And the answer to that would be no. I have never really experienced hair loss with my Crohn's disease. I'm quite fortunate to have quite long, thick hair, but I do know that quite a few people with Crohn's disease do suffer hair loss, and it can be in quite big chunks and quite a large amount of hair. I did recently get a comment on one of my older Crohn's disease videos asking me if I have experienced hair loss, as they're quite nervous and quite scared, and if I could give some advice to you. But I can't really give advice on something that I haven't experienced. But there is a girl on YouTube which I do subscribe to. She also has Crohn's disease and has experienced hair loss, so I will link her channel down below in case you would like to go over to her channel and watch some of her videos, and hopefully she can give you the correct advice and guidance that you need with regards to dealing with hair loss. Although I do know that there probably are a lot of supplements and vitamins that you can take to help with hair loss. So that is definitely probably worth looking into, but again, I will link some channels down below that could point you in the right direction and offer you some more efficient guidance and help. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is definitely coming out in full force. There is a question here which sort of I have answered in my previous questions, and that was, do you feel a level of stress and pressure with Crohn's disease? The need to constantly go to the toilet. That is definitely a level of stress that can be present, especially if you have a full-time job like myself. There are times when I have gone into work knowing that I am having a flare-up and will be needing the toilet. But I suppose that level of stress has been controlled, as I have got access to disabled toilets at work. So even though we do have 3 separate cubicles in the normal toilets, sometimes I can feel really overwhelmed and really nervous to use the toilets as the same people who I work with in the office. So I do have access to the disabled toilets, which is definitely a benefit to myself and something that really relieves the stress of having a chronic illness whilst being at work. Other than that, I don't feel that there is a large level of stress whilst having Crohn's disease. I think because I've had it for such a long time, I have sort of learned how to deal with it and live with it, so I don't really feel as stressed anymore, because I know how to cope with it if I am having a flare-up or if I do constantly need the toilet. I got a question about going out for meals and if I can still go out for meals, or do I have to be careful with where I'm going, or if I'm restricted to restaurants. Question alone can also be an added pressure. Sometimes I won't want to go to a specific restaurant, or I won't want to go for a meal if I'm going with people who I don't normally go for a meal with, friends who I haven't seen in quite a while. That can be an added pressure and stress, because if I do eat something at that meal and it does upset my stomach, then it can be quite a spiral from there, and I will have to go home. I'll constantly need a toilet, so that can be an added pressure with regards to going out for a meal. So I have answered 2 questions in one there, if you're still keeping up with me and if that still makes sense. This is such a lot of information to take in and also to try and explain to everybody clearly. So I do apologise if this video is very rambled. I am trying to stick on topic as well as answer the questions thoroughly. That actually leads me quite nicely onto the last question which I am going to answer, and that is, are there any foods that can be triggers, or does it affect what you can and can't eat? I do get a lot of food related questions with regards to my Crohn's disease. I have recently just uploaded a what I eat in a day video, so if you haven't watched that video then I will link that down below, as that does give you an insight into my day and what I can and can't eat. With regards to foods which can be triggers, I can't eat whole grain foods, so brown bread, brown pasta, whole grain foods, anything brown I can't really eat, as that doesn't digest properly in my stomach and doesn't break down. I can't also eat foods that are high in fibre, so quite a lot of fruits. So say bananas, grapes, apples. I can't eat the skin of an apple. They're also triggers for Crohn's disease, so really any fruit for me is out of the cards. I don't say I have a very good diet with having Crohn's disease, but I don't say I have quite a bad one either. I do try and eat healthy foods which I know will not cause me a flare-up and will not affect me, but that can be quite difficult. I can't also eat spicy food, so Mexican food, heavily seasoned food, heavily spiced foods. Definitely no Indian food, so no curries or anything like that. That is one of the bigger triggers for me with Crohn's disease and having a flare-up. It's like Indian food, so like samosas, onion bhajis, naan bread, curries, anything like that will cause me a flare-up, and I definitely know to stay clear from that. If I am going out for a meal and it is for a curry, I will tend to stick to like just a chicken dish, like chicken tikka pieces or something like that. I won't necessarily have a curry. People always say to me, well, if you have Crohn's disease, don't you eat really healthy? Do you not make sure that you eat healthy? Do you not watch what you're eating? And this is such a common question that I get asked, but healthy food is actually quite a big trigger, especially for myself personally with Crohn's disease. Like, as I mentioned, I can't eat really any fruit because that's quite high in fibre. It's difficult to digest in my stomach and for the food to break down, and it's just not good for my stomach condition. Salads can even cause me a flare-up. One day I can eat a salad and be okay. As I mentioned in my what I eat in a day video, I had a pasta salad and that time I was okay, but sometimes salads can actually cause a flare-up. I cannot really drink either dairy milk, so red milk, green milk, blue milk, I can't really have those because they do bloat me and do make me need the toilet. I have recently just switched to oat milk, which you would have seen in my what I eat in a day video, and that's been going really well for me at the moment, and that is technically just like dairy. It tastes exactly the same, but it is a lot creamier, so you do need a little bit less. But with regards to food, that is all I can really say on that topic. But I did get a question here, and I did actually really want to answer this in this video, and it says, will it get better as you get older? Crohn's disease, for people who didn't know, is actually a lifelong illness. This doesn't go away, but it can be managed. So I have had an operation, and I had this operation when I was in secondary school in year 11, I believe. End of year 10, start of year 11, along those lines. And once I've had that operation, my Crohn's disease is definitely a lot more manageable. I'm having a lot less flare-ups, a lot less stomach pain, and I'm not necessarily needing to go to the toilet as much. So although we will have this disease for as long as we live, there are definitely a lot of different ways in managing it. The operation that I had for me was a removal of my bowel, which was 6 inches, which I think is like this, but I'm not too sure. I did have keyhole surgery and I have got some scars on my stomach. I will see if I can insert some pictures here just to show you. So that in a way is what has really helped and definitely made my Crohn's disease a lot more manageable. I have been on steroids, I've been on supplement drinks, I am on Humira injections now, which I can't really talk a lot about because I don't necessarily fully understand them, but they are definitely helping me as well. So there are loads of different ways that Crohn's disease can be managed, but it is just what works best for yourself, and I think the operation has literally been the best thing that I have done for my Crohn's disease, hands down. But those are all the questions that I'm going to answer for today. I have rambled for quite a long time, definitely over 30 minutes, so I will stop this video here as I don't want you all to get sick of hearing my voice rambling for that amount of time. I think I'm getting sick of listening to myself, but hopefully this video has been really informative for anybody that didn't know what Crohn's disease was, or for people who have Crohn's disease and just wanted to hear other people's experiences. Sometimes I do sit on YouTube and Google Crohn's disease and see what other people's experiences are like and how they're managing and dealing with it. If you do have any questions which I haven't really answered in this video, then please leave them down below. I am always replying to comments, so if I do see your comment or you do have a question that you would like me to answer, then I will do so down below. Thank you for watching, everybody, and if you have made it to the end, thank you. I really appreciate it, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. So thank you for watching.